mower reached 3.6 metres, 12 feet in height, and weighed up to 230 kilos. That's 510 pounds. Yes, that was a 230 kilo, 3.6 metre tall bird. The KFC was to sell those drumsticks, we're going to need bigger buckets. On your left are 6 wonderful houses built in the early 1900s. They call them the Six Sisters. New Zealand's varied topography and its sharp mountain peaks owe much to the uplift of land and volcanic eruptions caused by the Pacific and Indo-Australian uncontrollably. Pretty much all of the bricks and mortar buildings succumbed to the earthquake, and most of the wooden buildings to the fires. So I've saved a swap really, so basically you should buy me to do this, I reckon. Coming up on our left here to the Masonic Hotel. This is where the Queen of England stayed on a coronation tour of the world. Mark Twain called in for a bit of a smile at one point. And on the second story balcony from the guests' windows, bedroom windows, they were able to skip stones on the ocean prior to the earthquake. If you look out to your right and see where the ocean is now, you can see why we'd love to have those guests in our cricket team. But unfortunately it had a lot more to do with the earthquake and the uplift of land, and we'll talk about that as we head around. The architectural fashion chosen for the rebuilding was known as Art Deco. There were actually a few reasons for that. One being that a power supply was installed. A temporary shopping centre was built in Clyde Square. It was called Tin Town, given that it was largely constructed of old sheets of iron. When they were doing the rebuilding, they used rivets in construction, even though welding technology was widely available. This was because of the loud noise they made when being applied. People could hear the rebuilding was underway. I guess it was a bit of a morale booster. Of course, it does beg the question, if two people can coordinate the entire rebuild of the city in 2.5 years, why do we need 14 councillors on a daily basis? If you look up around the verandas there, you'll see that most of them are tied back into the buildings. This is because during the earthquake, many of the poles, the verandas were used. Fantastic little additions to the town. Children, while you're on board, see if you can wave to everybody, see if you can get them to smile and wave back. Really small, big though, and if you're missing your front teeth, even bigger, because everyone thinks that's cute. Remember that? Not so much in the adults, funnily enough. See a large pink building on your right. This is a very good example of Art Deco, and since it was opened, it has been a bang, a restaurant. On one of our very first trips through town here with customers, one lady stood up and yelled out that her mum used to work there. Just as I was also explaining, it used to house the world's oldest profession for many years as well. You'll see there's a large number of pink buildings here in town. Pink was very popular in the 1930s. It took men about 70 years longer to get used to the idea of wearing it. If you have a look down to the street on our left, you'll see that there's a wonderful Spanish mission building nestled in there. And on the corner here, that's the old movie theatre of 1932. Concrete, and even the stained glass window in the front was pre-1931 and it came through perfectly intact. Hence why that's all now part of the building code. If you look ahead of us now, you'll see Clive Square coming with the large trees. On our right here, the Trinity Methodist Church. Wooden building, survived the earthquake. Coming up at the top of the square in a moment, the old fire station. Well, the archways obviously where the engines came out. But it's a beautiful Art Deco example today. But prior to the earthquake, it was a Victorian style building. Unfortunately, earthquakes seem to like Victorian style buildings because they're covered in they've got a pretty good recipe to match though. They throw 250 parties a year. Most of them around the third week for the unexpected or the uninvented. And of course that's meant we've been able to incorporate the sprawling coffee shops and restaurants throughout town without actually structurally changing anything. Even the shop verandas, they said let's make them bigger than we need them for now. Population when they built them was 16,000. We have 57,000 residents now. We could probably all still fit under them all at the same time. But it's been very easy for us because of the two gentlemen. They gave really broad guidelines to the architects, and the architects got on board as well. They all realised that to be most efficient, they should all work together. So they all joined forces and looked at each other's drawings, because often the buildings were being built simultaneously, and they made sure they utilised the strength of the shared wall between the businesses, and the exteriors would fit in both physically and aesthetically. They rebuilt some 300 buildings in 4 years here. I believe that starts with rebuilding Christchurch. Of course, up at the intersection here, another large piece of community that still takes an interest in care for its other residents. A good example from the earthquake times were the local butchers. They saw that many families had lost not only their places of work, but many of them had lost their homes.
We're now entering the business district of Napier. You'll notice the lack of shop verandas and the more ornate entranceways. And on our left, here's the lawyer's office. They moved in there in the rebuild in 1932. They've been there ever since. You see some of the lawyers going in and out. In fact, they're the original ones as well. The pink building, the head was on the is a pleasant, sunny and warm Mediterranean climate. In autumn the grapevines turn spectacular shades of red and gold, giving the landscape a magical quality. In early spring the surrounding ranges and the icing sugar dusting of snow on the top, making a stunning backdrop to the fruit tree blossom. We're now going to head up over Napier Hill. There's many homes up here, some from the late 1800s. General rule of thumb, the older the home, the smaller it is. We seem to want bigger homes these days, even though we have smaller families. The average price on the hill here is about $500,000 New Zealand dollars. There's quite a few with less and some with much more. The average throughout Napier is $270,000 to $290,000. New Zealand was the first country in the world where women got the right to vote. New Zealand also established a welfare. Can you hear the commentary all right? More from my childhood. And a couple of thousand acres is the backyard. I did have childhood really, a couple of rivers bordering the property to find trouble, and I had a couple of brothers to help me find it. And the weather wasn't good, we'd all go to the workshop and try and make things, everything we'd seen on TV or in a cartoon. We even managed to make a flamethrower when we were pretty young. And there is a mum and dad crops off the land in one season. The spring, the summer and an autumn crop. As the crops ripen in different stages throughout Hawke's Bay, they can start their combine harvesters at one end and work all the way to the other. Sometimes they'll keep their combine harvesters running for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 8 to 9 weeks at a time. To give you an idea of the volumes we're dealing with here, at any one time in a local cool store, one of the companies alone will have over 2,500 tonnes of
Now, the reason I say pseudo-replica, of course, it's got wonderful rope bringing now rather than what they utilised back then, and also it's got a solar panel on the front to run an engine, and it's also got safety nets and flares and those sorts of things on board. But that particular boat, they've sailed all the way to the Galapagos Islands and back. They're raising money now to sail out to Rarotonga and back. I love sailing and being out on the ocean, but wouldn't necessarily shoot my hand up to be one of the crew to go out in the blue like that. Coming up on the left here, one of the old-fashioned trains they're reinstated. There's no push-button electronics on that, it's only sweat and muscle that makes that work. Send it away to Wellington and wait for it to come back. The government said they were trying to help. I think they're actually worried about missing out on export taxes, but anyway, gave us the means to get on with earning the country some money. And in the front there, children, what looks like a witch's cauldron is actually a whaler's tripod. During a less environmentally conscious era, there were many whaling stations here. But thankfully they've gone. The whales, dolphins and killer whales have all returned. This area became a popular meeting place for people. Often after dinner, families would swim and skate on the foreshore and socialise. That is before we locked ourselves up in our homes to watch television. We're walking along the foreshore here, later on. One day, have a look on our left there, there's some people reading the Mary legend on the stone underneath the Pioneer of the Reef statue there. That wonderful $18 million museum I talked about, up here on our right, this big white building here. Yep, you guessed it. They circumvented their own building rules, so they didn't have to do it in our Deco style. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for taking a tour with us. We'll get you back just a few minutes later, I hope you don't mind. But it's been a privilege.